Good evening. This is Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. D.Jargalsaikhan. And this week we'll be discussing the evidence analysis hearing held for the development bank cases, the changes to the child money program, and the possibility of legalizing casinos in Mongolia. So there was a public hearing held by the ad hoc committee responsible for reviewing the implementation of projects and programs financed by the Development Bank of Mongolia that took place this week. And the public hearing is scheduled to take place in 3 stages. So this week's hearing focused on the spending of 77 loans directly granted by the Development Bank. The second stage, or the evidence analysis hearing, is going to be held between February 13th and the 17th. And the third phase of the hearing, which will take place between March 13th and the 17th, will focus on the spending and the results of the 2,550 project and program loans provided through commercial banks with the resources of the Development Bank. So what was the highlight from this week's hearings?
Well, as you said, the highlights of the first stage of this hearing is to put more lights on the spending of some loans, some 77 largest loans, which they find very questionable. This ad hoc committee of the parliament, first time created as inquiry, like in many other developed democracies like UK, the Netherlands, where the parliamentarian, it's a ad hoc committee, permanent committee, a temporary committee, to highlight particular issues more in details. And this time, for the first time in history of Mongolian parliament, the issue is around Development Bank of Mongolia, as you said. So this is a quite useful instrument that we should use further on. The first stage of this inquiry will cover about 77 loans, questionable loans, which already they have done it. And I will briefly tell about some cases. The second about the projects, 355 projects, and which will be in February, in March. There will be 2,055 projects and other programs. It's a quite big work. First time in the history of Mongolia. Just at the end of the first hearing, they have already checked some 3 million transactions. It's a quite long work, quite a lot of work. And initially, they had not finance to do so, or to attract professionals on this issue. Looks like they have done it now. Looks like they have got some financing from Minister of Finance, probably. So what you can say after first round of hearing, I will talk about 2 cases, for example. One is an Iril company who got 203 trillion MNT loan, and they have not paid 127 of them. And Mr. Irtenbat, who is the owner and the owner of the CEO of this company, said that there are 2 government resolutions related to this project. None of them were implemented. If it was implemented, 40% of Mongolian families living in Gir districts could have normal housing with normal sanitation, he said. And 5 years, this plant is not working, though it can work. So each loan has own reason. However, for example, Mr. Inkbayar, who is the head of this commission, asked him, you have taken in cash to your son and your wife name 14 million USD out of this loan money. He was explaining in his own way, but it was not very much convincing. The other man was actually taking money in cash from ATM in Macau and Singapore, for example. Or the third case about the Achilal Tiret, a company that made 300 beds hospital in Ulaanbaatar city, but they have not paid any money from the loan. And the owner, former parliament member, lady Bilicht, said that this is good for the health care of the country. So, I mean, we should kind of co-share this responsibility. That was the approach, etc., etc. And there were some 77 questionable loans where the owners spend money in not the way intended. So this kind of hearing we have seen. What is my take out of this hearing is, like in the UK inquiry, the parliament inquiry obliges the witness to come in front of the permanent committee, the temporary committee, sorry. And that person will usually be questioned under oath. And if they lie, they will be prosecuted for perjury. So I think that's what we are missing in Mongolia. And that's why I think that we need to improve that system. As, for example, former President Baktulga did not come to this committee. And he said that first, he has a party meeting. Second, he is now under investigation by anti-corruption agency and and he is now not to disclose anything during the investigation. So everybody will find one reason not to come. So I think we need to improve that part of the Mongolian inquiry. Second, it is in the matter of DBM faith. What will happen with the Development Bank of Mongolia? Because it clearly shows it cannot be like a second budget of the country, which they have been using, and in particular politicians were misusing it. So it will be clear what Development Bank of Mongolia should not do hopefully after all this hearing, and it will be, according to Mr. Inkbayar, will be discussed at the opening session of Mongolian Parliament.
So what do you think will be the final result after the three hearings? So after the next two hearings are held, what do you think will be the final result? Do you think that these hearings will be fruitful for bringing back some of the lost loans to the development bank?
Well, we should not expect too much because, as we have seen, we need even to improve the particular law of the supervision of the parliament. But it's a good start. I think we should congratulate Parliament member Inkbayar for this taking over all these issues. And secondly, I think it will be a substantial step towards better governance, less corruption, etc. That's what is needed in the Mongolian democracy. So we hope, as a result of this inquiry, this ad hoc committee work, we should have a little bit better and cleaner governance in the country. Certainly, I have big hope for that.
Let's move on to our second topic for this week. So in November of last year, Parliament approved amendments to the law on social welfare to convert the child money program into a welfare service for target groups. So in the 2023 budget law, 1.3 trillion MNT in spending through the child money program was approved for over 1.114 million children, making 91% of all children eligible to receive the 100,000 month MNT per month through the program. So a lot of people are complaining about discrimination, as they have set a limit for the income for the income of the parents whose children will receive the money. So if you're making more than 3.5 million tuguks per month, that makes your children ineligible to receive this money. So what do you think about this issue? Do you think that it's good enough for 91% of children to be receiving money, or do you think that all children should be receiving this money?
Well, first of all, can we afford it? We have to do it. We had to do it during pandemic because there was no other way. The government spent so much money giving every child 100,000 per month, which was total cost of which was 3% of GDP. It's quite some money, provided Mongolia is spending 4 and 6% of our budget for whole total education, for example. So this country cannot afford paying so much money to every children. Yet it's reasonable to pay, to give the allowance, child allowances to families that must need it. But the criteria they made, 3.5 million MNT per month income and 3 real estates, or at least over 3 real estates and 2 cars. Whether this one is correct or not, this is another issue. But one thing I am sure that Mongolia needs to make clear differences between the income of the people. This can be achieved only by direct taxes, not through employer. Everybody is to pay on income taxes, real estate taxes, and there should not be gray economy. And everybody who is contributing, who is trading, is to pay taxes. In that way, we know income of every individual. In that way, we know clearly who needs more help. So without that, it will be very hard for the government to go ahead with this project. Initially, 9 or about 10% of the population is not supposed to have this money, and there is already budget money for 90% of the children to have this monthly allowances. The second take about this project is clearly it shows how much we need to improve Mongolian e-Mongolia system and e-Khalunj system, e-care system, where the children, for example, have statistics are completely different. Many families are now complaining. 23,000 families complain that they have either more children or less children actually than they have actually. 16,000 of them were corrected, and another 7,000 are to be corrected. It also shows we need to have very clear statistics, very clear data, and those in the government who is responsible for inputting the data are to be really checked somehow. Mongolian Database Center probably is to check at least selectively whether all the inputs are correct or not. So many people are complaining. So 2 things with the child money. It's much better to have given the children more money to the poorest family rather than to family which even does not recognize that they are receiving money, even they don't care to take this money. So that would be a better approach, I believe.
Let's move on to our final topic for this week. The person that was in charge of the development of the airport area, or also called the Hushig Valley, said that building a casino in Mongolia, we can see the impact of building casinos in Mongolia by building one casino. And she said that it would be a positive thing to build a casino by the airport. And she also highlighted that 15,000 jobs could be created through the opening of a casino. So as we know, there was a law that banned the opening of casinos in Mongolia that was passed in 1999. So do you think that this is a good idea? Do you think that bringing casinos or legalizing gambling in Mongolia would be a good way to move forward in terms of attracting tourists from other countries?
The government had announced the years to visit Mongolia, next another 3 years. Within this framework, we have a new airport, and with the renovation in the building up of the aero city around this airport, the person in charge suggests this law. In fact, we have been talking about this law for the last 10 years. Only issue is it is not very clear whether only foreigners will play the casino, will come to the casino or not. In many countries, only foreigners can play. For example, in Korea, we know well, foreigners, they show their passport and play. According to the Minister of Justice, there are 154 countries and there are 5,823 casinos in the world. And Macau alone made 7.6 billion US dollar for 2020, which completely fills the budget of the city. Macau is not an independent country; it's special part of China. So whether we'll make this money or not, it's another question. But in Macau, they have only 6 licenses, and minimum 500 million USD investment is required. And according to the people who drafted the law, Mongolia will require at least 300 million US dollar investment on this project. And another cause is 40% of daily income weekly will be taken to the state budget. And in 30 years, half of all tables will transfer to the government. I don't know why should government have these tables. Anyway, yes, it will be. I told you 40% of the daily income is to come to the budget. Mongolia made Mongolia made some 1.7 trillion MNT, or 7% of our export for only last year from tourism. 7.6% of our labor works in this industry. Ideally, if they make a casino, and according to also the who drafted this casino, the whole entertainment center will be 80% of the total space, and 20% will be only for casino. It is not clear what will be this 80% space for what kind of entertainment. Ideally, for example, in Malaysia, the casino has nearby big golf courses. Like people come, play golf, and then go at night to casino, etc. Ideally, Mongolia, the people to come in summer to play golf. 4 months Mongolia is very ideal for golf for people from Southeast Asia, where the temperature is over 35 Celsius, which is impossible, very hard to play golf. And also for winter to come to ski. This kind of combination could be also some feasible, viable, but I don't see what kind of entertainments will be with this area. I think it's much better to discuss all issues all together in one set. Otherwise, it is not only just casino issue. The reason 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, Mongolia had opened casino and closed was corruption, actually. Many public officers, well known, were playing there. Some criminal cases happened. So hopefully it will not be repeated. But however, we need to know exactly Mongolians do play or not. Well, these are the 3 most important events to our mind happened in Mongolia. And we try to give you some more information for English-speaking audiences. And thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.